Hi, I'm Shobha Raghunathan. I run a venture called the Build Ed. We provide management consulting in terms of people, processes, and structures for organizations. And we conduct training programs very focused towards the building industry, the real estate, construction, and design industry. Well, my journey started 22 years ago. I started out as an architect and then moved out into project management which is applied to the construction building domain. I did my master's in building engineering and management from School of Planning, and that helped me to branch out into that domain. And I continued to manage projects for a long time, grew in my career, moved up to more business and profit and loss roles, managing the business line, the service line, managing large teams, building and developing those large teams, bringing business for the company, moved up to sitting into the executive leadership teams, the national executive leadership team. And then at some point in my career, I thought I need to give back. I need to do more than limit myself to one particular corporation. And that's when I moved out and started on my own and started this journey to help organizations and help people reinvent themselves, reskill themselves, and reorganize themselves. So that's what we really help do. It was a deviation for me, coming from the kind of background I did. Engineering or medicine were more understood, much better understood, and they were domains that everyone would normally go into. So architecture was, it's not that people didn't take architecture, there were very few and maybe not well known to me. So it was almost like I was stepping out and doing something different. But all of that journey was fun. I think the bigger deviation happened when an architect chose not to sit in the studio and design, but to go out in the field and manage the project. I think that was a bigger deviation. That was more expected out of engineers than out of architects. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed doing something different, and it gave me a sort of kick at that time to do that. And it wasn't an easy journey, more so I think because very few youngsters, very few women were on the sites. To go back and give you an example, when I started, I worked with this very small niche company, which was into project management and structural design engineering. We picked up a project which was a software campus, and I was asked to manage the pre-construction aspects, which I did. It was a fantastic experience, and my bosses were highly experienced. They had 30-40 years in the industry. So working with them was a phenomenal learning experience for me. I completely enjoyed working with them. It gave me an insight into how clients think, how large contractors think, how leaders think. So it was very hands-on. And then a time came where this project moved on to site. And the normal thing to do, and then sort of in the natural progression of things, was to look for another team which will go on to site. And that's what I think my boss was planning to do. I realized that I've gone this far in the journey, and then I'm going to lose touch with what is happening. So I approached him and I said, I want to go to site and I will manage the project from the site. I think he was surprised, but he didn't show it. He was very, very encouraging, and I'm really thankful to him and to have such great. I think I was very lucky to have great bosses very early on. So he encouraged me, he helped me go there, and he sorted out logistics, how do I commute. And then I went on to manage that particular project sitting out of the site, so much so that he didn't add any team member for the next 4 months because probably he didn't need it. And like, I was able to manage that. It was a fun journey. I was the only woman out there. That used to give me a certain sense of respect from others naturally. And I think I could set boundaries. I could set how the project functioned, how our day-to-day communication happened. One thing is that you have to be very, very driven to go through that day in and out. You have to be driven to do that, and very focused on your learning and what you're contributing. And I think I've kept that through the years, made sure that none of these small things bother, and learn to see it in the bigger perspective of things, of your professional growth as well as in personal life. Small problems or small hitches are always there. One has to look at the bigger picture and keep moving on. So it's been a journey. I've seen the industry change so much from the time when I started out. When I started out 22 years back, project management was completely new. The industry was yet to understand a very organized way of functioning, of bringing processes in, and clients would question, why do you need a project manager? I have an architect, I have an engineer who's designing for me, and I have contractors who will deliver the project for me. So what is the value that you would add? A large portion of our job was then to make sure that the client understands the value of approaching a project in a very systematic, organized way, of the fact that bringing processes in does not really is not in any way detrimental, doesn't slow down the process, the entire process, but it actually adds value because it helps you to document things, it makes it auditable, it makes it, you can come back and review it. And there are many such advantages. The biggest one is that you get your project delivered on time and within your budget. So that is the journey we started with. And then, of course, the industry has come a long way where project management is understood. It's become almost like a given. You have to have processes on a project, and pretty much everyone does that now. So we came to a point where now contractors offer project management, and project management is just another skill set that everybody needs. And I felt that the industry was in this kind of a flux where it was changing very, very rapidly. The outside environment is changing very rapidly, and you've got to keep pace. And a lot of initiatives I saw being taken in organizations were sort of falling flat because people were not keeping up with that change. So I firmly believe that any organization's success is really and truly dependent on the success of its employees. Employees create that success. So if the employees aren't leaping ahead, your organization is not leaping ahead. You can bring in any technology, you can bring in any process. Every year you can bring in a new strategy, but your people have to really live that strategy, understand the technology, and implement all of that. The balance is much more towards unskilled labor in the industry than skilled, and this is the case the world over. This is not specific only to India. While in India we see in all developing countries we see the problem is greater that way, more unskilled. If you look at the total number of people, the industry is expected to employ about 70 million by the end of 2022, and out of that only about 16% are skilled. When I say skilled, I mean supervisors, foremen, technicians, engineers, managers, and so on. Of this, 60% is the management, administration, project personnel, architects, engineers, and so on. The rest are supervisory staff. So yes, there is an imbalance, but this 8 to 10% of the workforce, I think, carries the ownership and responsibility of driving efficiency throughout the setup. You can't expect this to come from the other side. And this is where technology really helps. So the industry has seen a lot of change. Like I said, a more organized way of functioning has become a given in today's time. And what has also changed is the external environment of how your clients are functioning, how projects are being financed. India has been a great growth story, right? The last decade and a half or more, you've seen tremendous growth in real estate. It's the only industry which I think, apart from services, which is growing at this rapid a pace. What that means is that you're bringing more and more people into the industry. You've got to be quickly scaled up. So that's one change which has happened. The other is the way of functioning has changed. You want to build faster, you want to build with least amount of issues, so you want the building process to become more efficient, which it has. Over a period of time, you see more construction materials have come into the industry, more technological practices have changed. If you look at a building today, what was being built over 2 years is now being built in under 1 year, 10 months. The cycle time of construction, as you say, the slab cycle has reduced more than half. So across the industry there are changes. If you look at interiors industry, pretty much everything has become off-site. You just bring material onto site and fit them. It is becoming more and more modular. Today, even the larger construction sites are becoming modular. So you have precast elements, they come in and you just fit them on the site. So your dependency on unskilled labor is reducing. I'm not saying it has gone from 100, 0 to 100. It hasn't scaled up, it hasn't changed like that. If you draw a median in the industry, there's a very marginal shift, but the top end of the industry has changed quite a bit. Going forward, with all of these changes, I see that clients demanding more, because when you see the top end of the industry and you've seen that change is possible, it is very obvious that the clients would want that. So that is changing. What is also happening is that contractors and developers have become used to this investment cycle, where so financing is not the same either. While technology has changed, building materials have changed, and the organization itself has changed, the financing has also changed, and that has brought many more stakeholders into the whole process. So the method of functioning has changed. There are more stakeholders to communicate with now. There are more, I would say, variables in the entire process. So there is a drive to make it seamless, there is a drive to make it more efficient, and everyone is now today questioning why is productivity lower in construction than in other industries. So how can we drive productivity up? I think with all of these questions which are coming up and the technological advances you're seeing elsewhere, it is but a given that industry will start adopting technology in a big way. So what you will see happening in real estate is more and more technology adoption, which reduces time taken for these processes, which reduces human errors. So quality goes up, construction itself becomes more efficient, it therefore should become cheaper at a larger scale, and more predictable. So predictability is a very key element, and that is going to improve over a period of time. That's going to give people data points to analyze. So analyze and come back with solutions which can be scaled up. At an individual level, each one of us have to become innovators in what we do. That is how the industry will progress. That's what I see happening as well. So I want to also talk about here. We are, setting up a women's body of professionals in the industry. This is to make sure that women get visibility to other women, and they can learn, and they can get mentored, so that they can rise up to leadership level. One of the projects we have taken up under this is to do with labor settlements, and how we have to treat labor settlements as settlements, really, not merely as temporary accommodation. Because if you look at the way they are set up today, they are not places where people will call it a home, and that is one of the reasons why there is no feeling of belonging, and labor tends to migrate out at the first opportunity, the first little turmoil that they face. So how do these settlements, how do these colonies, how are they spaced out, how are they designed to accommodate communities? So you've got to look at them as communities, and that is one of the projects we've taken up, where we're studying that and how can we improve it, what changes can be made to the current stipulation under law, as well as what recommendations we can give from the industry standpoint. So with that growing conviction, I started on my own. The idea is to help the industry, the medium, large, and the smaller size project teams and organizations, to scale up and build that capability in terms of its people. So while we will help to set up process, we will also help them to reorganize the structure, organizational structure, and enable the people to accept these changes and implement all of those changes. So in a way you can say, yes, we are into skill development, we are into people development, however you want to call it. It's essentially management consulting and learning and development for construction organizations. Before I talk about messages for leaders, I want to talk to the youngsters. And one of the key message I have here is that there is a certain trajectory in any professional path, which is you start by learning, then you start to apply your learning, you find your own self and what you're good at, and finally you give back, which is what I call leadership. So it's a 3-stage professional growth, I would say. And one shouldn't forget that before you start to lead, you have to find your own self, and before you can do that, there is a lot of learning to be done. So never be impatient with any of those. They will all happen when they have to happen. I think one has to be patient with oneself and take that learning path first. That is the first piece of advice if anyone wants to take. The other thing is, for youngsters, I don't want to distinguish women or not women. Women have, I think, more opportunities to do other things other than their professional life. But once you have chosen a certain path, you have consciously decided to devote a certain amount of your time and energy to either your profession or to your hobby or to anything that you want to do. Don't give up. Life will throw many chances for you to take a deviation in, right? And deviations are fine as long as they are consciously taken. But if you've consciously decided to do something, stick with it long enough, persevere. And that is very, very important. I see people getting frustrated and impatient very soon these days. Give everything its time. First give yourself time, and then give the entire process enough time. So don't give up, and look for opportunities where you can contribute more and more. Look out for opportunities in your life that where you can contribute more. With more contribution comes more learning and growth. You don't have to look for growth. You have to only look for what can you do, what value can I provide. Keep that in your mind very consciously. The first 10 years, I think, this is something that I have done. Every year I used to tell myself, I need to do something new and I need to create some new value, which I didn't do last year. So it could be a new big project. I can set my sights higher to, goals higher to a larger project or a bigger design, or, whatever field you're in. If I'm a marketing executive, I might tell myself, I want to groom a team and I want to become a leader. I want to take those first steps towards leadership. It could be anything. It could be joining a course. It could be learning something formally. Just keep doing something new and add to your growth every year. For leaders, I would say, once you recognize yourself as a leader, you're at a place where you're giving. And when you're giving, I think one most important thing all leaders have to learn is to keep your anxiety and insecurity aside. When you're giving, you should really be looking at the other person. Leadership is all about your team, your company, your organization, and the much larger environment. How are they doing? That's the question you need to ask. What more can I do to enable them? And once you just set up an enabling path or an enabling system, believe me, people will pick that up and they will do much better than you. So you don't have to worry about how an organization runs or how well the organization performs, as long as you have enabled everyone else to perform. So leadership is all about others. It's I think that time of your professional growth when you start to think, how is my team performing? How well, how much more can they do, rather than thinking how much more can I do? That is one step before.